Good afternoon and welcome to this session on crowdfunding for Londoners. My name is Sammy Morger. I'm working at Crowdfunder here from Crowdfunder HQ in Newquay, where it's actually a little bit of a grisly day outside. And we're also joined today by Alexandra from TimePeace.
Hi there, I'm Alexandra. I'm one of the 3 co-founders for TimePeace, a new app coming to the UK shortly.
Fantastic. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about Alexandra's project later on, but first, a bit of an introduction as to who we are here at Crowdfunder. So we are the UK's largest rewards-based platform. We have actually around about 150 projects a day coming in and looking to raise the funds that they need to make ideas happen. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how much crowdfunding is on the rise. So just to quickly clear up what we mean when we're talking about crowdfunding, because there is more than one type. So you may have heard of donation-based crowdfunding. That's sites like Just Giving, for example, or GoFundMe, where people might be looking to raise some money for charity. That's where you just donate some money and you get nothing in return. We actually do donation-based crowdfunding on Crowdfunder as well. So do bear that in mind if that is something that might be relevant to your project. Next, we have rewards crowdfunding. That's what we're here to talk about today. That's where people pledge money in return for a reward. Now, what that reward might be can vary massively, from something physical to an experience or an event or even just sponsorship. We also do community shares on Crowdfunder, but I'm not going to focus on that too much today, as well as lending and equity. We have partnerships with other crowdfunding companies that do work in those areas, but it's not something that we're focusing on today. So if you're interested in equity crowdfunding or lending or community shares, feel free to get in touch with us via the usual channels at Crowdfunder, and we can certainly direct you to the right place. So a little bit of an example as to how rewards crowdfunding works. Now, on the left here, we have Lynn and Rebecca. And Lynn and Rebecca really like goats, okay? They were looking to raise some money, around about £9,000, in order to actually open an urban goat farm in Bristol. So they decided to actually use Crowdfunder as a way of raising that money and also to raise some support in their local community. So they set up a project. They were offering all sorts of different rewards. You can see here that they were screen printing some canvas tote bags. Who doesn't love one of those? And all sorts of things like that that they were giving as their rewards. And at the end of 28 days, they'd hit their target, but more importantly, they now had 167 supporters who wanted to see an urban goat farm in Bristol and were willing to pledge their support towards making that happen. So, tell us a little bit more about TimePeace, Alexandra, if you will.
Sure. So TimePeace is a new mobile app which is launching this September. We founded it in March this year, and the mobile application is designed to help improve the life for refugees when they arrive in their host nation. So if you arrive in the UK or any country in Europe, you're an asylum seeker, and that's the term you're given in the legal sense. And whilst you're applying for refugee status, you're an asylum seeker and you're not allowed to work. So you have £5 a day to live off. And this application process can take anywhere from 6 months to 8 years. So if you imagine you're 21 and you've managed to make it all the way to the UK and you're applying for asylum here, you could end up waiting a number of years before you're even allowed to start kind of going back to school, getting involved in the community. So TimePeace is this idea which has come up with Charlotte, the other co-founder, who I was with in Calais refugee camp last year. And the app will help you connect with local residents in your area to swap skills. So refugees will be able to go on there and share the skills they have, whether that's silversmithing or cooking or carpentry. And other people within the area will be able to take those skills and buy them using time credits. So this is a non-financial exchange where people exchange their time rather than money. And the aim is to help build more integrated communities and empower refugees to play a meaningful role within their new communities from the day they arrive. To where we are, and we're launching in September.
Amazing. So you can actually see here a little bit of a preview as to what their project page looked like when they were crowdfunding with us, and they closed less than a month ago, so recently, and they obviously did a fantastic job. So there's all sorts of projects that we work with on Crowdfunder right across the spectrum, from people looking to record their first album to people who want to save their local pier, like Hastings Pier, for example. So there really is a broad spectrum of projects that are really right for crowdfunding. So thinking about why people decide to crowdfund rather than other means of getting funding. And I think it's actually quite important at this stage to mention that crowdfunding is often part of what we call the funding mix. So it isn't necessarily the solve-all answer to all your problems. It might be that you still need to look for additional funding elsewhere. But what we can absolutely help you to do is to do some of these things as well. So first up, validation is really, really key. And particularly for new projects or people who are looking to do something innovative, by crowdfunding, it's one of the best ways to find out if other people like what you're doing too. Is there an interest in what you're doing? Do people want to see an urban goat farm or an app like TimePeace? Or is it just you? Actually, is there a community who also thinks this is a good idea? Secondly, awareness. And I think this is something which is really, really true for crowdfunding that lots of the other methods of getting funding perhaps doesn't do, is that by going through the process of actually raising money in this way, you'll find that you're shouting about your project the loudest and proudest than you ever have done before, because it's something out of the norm, it's something different, and you have this this goal that you're all striving towards, and you have a lot of I guess sort of passion behind it. So it's definitely good at raising awareness about what you're doing. I think next, advocates. We find that people who actually support you through crowdfunding tend to be on for the long haul. They tend to be those supporters that stick around, that tend to get involved with projects in other ways, as opposed to more sort of traditional ways of fundraising where you might, sort of be packing bags in your local supermarket, where those people don't necessarily engage with the project in such great detail. They don't really take that sense of ownership, whereas that is something we see a lot of in crowdfunding. And of course, extra funding. We do have extra funds available from a number of partners, which we're going to come on to in just a moment. But what you're actually able to do through Crowdfunder is to access those grants, those pots of funding in a much shorter timescale than you would be able to ordinarily, without filling out lots and lots of forms, going to lots of meetings and making all of these applications. It's a very short and sharp way of putting in an application and pulling some money out of it very quickly. So at this point, people normally say, so what's the catch? So there's no upfront fee at all if you want to crowdfund. There is a fee. We do take a percentage if you successfully fund and you raise some money. So our fee on Crowdfunder is 5%, and there's VAT on that as well, so do bear that in mind. Depending on how you choose to collect your payments, there are also fees that are charged from those payment providers. Now, PayPal, most of you will have heard of from the eBay days. You can also opt to take payments via credit or debit cards, which is Stripe. A lot of people haven't heard of Stripe, but essentially, if you've ever bought anything from an online shop, you've probably used Stripe. You just don't know it. They're all using it. So do take into consideration those fees when you're setting your target. So I mentioned that extra funding earlier. We're just going to touch on a couple of the funds that are available. Now, there's up to £10,000 per project available in the Improving Life for Londoners Fund. And that's for projects in London that are tackling poverty and inequality. We also have up to £1,000 available for community projects in North London and Hertfordshire. And that's again for those community projects. If you're interested in applying for one of these funds, and why wouldn't you be? If you head on to crowdfunder.co.uk/funds, you can see all of the funds that are available. We've got funds from places like Barking and Dagenham, Lewisham, Harrow, and of course, full national funds like our Santander Changemaker Fund, which is available nationally, and you can again get up to £10,000 there. Alexandra, your project actually received £10,000 from the Improving Life for London's Fund. Tell us a bit about how that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was going to say that is hugely down to you guys at Crowdfunder for initially making us aware of it. I think when we were first setting up the project, running any initiative, there's already so many things to think about. Just crowdfunding kind of falls into one strand of that, and then you've got everyone saying apply for grants, do this, do that, and we're saying, look, you know, there's 3 of us and we have jobs, we need to make sure we're doing something which is manageable. So we kind of didn't pay too much attention to additional funding and thought, but let's just focus on trying to get the crowdfunding going. And I think it was one of your colleagues who had sent us a couple of emails. We'd flagged them to be like, we'll check that, but hadn't got around to it yet. And I got this phone call on Tuesday afternoon when I was at work saying, I want you to apply for this grant because we think you'll be eligible for it. Can you turn something around this evening? It's 5 simple questions. We're meeting them on Thursday. And if it wasn't for you guys being proactive and coming to us and saying, yes, you're a great fit, then we probably wouldn't have actually kind of gone down that route. And that would have made a huge difference, I think, to the funding we received. So there's a lot of big thanks to that for you guys. And what was really awesome, I think, is she literally typed up the responses on the train home, sent them over to you guys, and then within the space of 48 hours, we'd already heard back saying, congratulations, we're giving you 10K towards your project, which is huge considering the fact that we are aiming for 20. How it works is that you initially get awarded the grants on the basis that you first raise 25% of your target. So with that kind of impetus of saying, if we can make it up to 5, we'll get 10, we use that as a really good kind of to get people re-engaged, because maintaining engagement is quite a challenging thing over an 8-week period. So that really, really helped to say, look, guys, we need £1,000 more, and then we'll get 10,000, and, you know, explaining to them that if everyone who liked this page gave us £1, would do it. So it's that kind of thing, which I think really helped us. And then hit the 5,000 mark, got given the 10,000, and then to keep that 10,000, we needed to meet our total, which we managed to do then, because obviously your amount goes up and everyone gets really excited, and then you can build the hype again. So I think it really helped to strike up a new conversation with our audience and show that other people, other than just kind of everyday people, saw value in our idea. So having a big name behind it really does help give kudos to your thing and encourage others. So yeah, thank you guys for helping us.
Awesome. No, it's a fantastic project. So looking then, if you are looking to add your own project and you're thinking about how do I find this extra funding, so once you've signed up to Crowdfunder, and you do have to do that first of all, you can go, you'll see this a little blue bar across the top, and where you can, I put my very handy arrow, there's a little button that says get extra funding. If you click through to there and find the fund that you're interested in, you can see the full criteria on the page there, and then the application form is right in there for you as well. And again, you can apply for more than one fund if you'd like to. If you think you're eligible for more than one, there's absolutely no problem with doing that. So just looking really briefly, this is the criteria that TimePeace fitted in with really well. Of course, they were definitely addressing local problems in creative ways, are definitely community-led, and of course, you know, working in London. So it was a really great fit for their project. So what we're going to focus on a little bit now is specifically what's involved in running a project. So you're thinking about crowdfunding, what do I need to do? So it's a great question. Let's see if we can cover that. So it's really simple. And this is kind of my crowdfunding for dummies slide. So essentially, you create your unique page on our website, and that explains your idea. You set yourself a financial target and how long you need to reach it. And that can be up to 8 weeks. It can be as short as just 1 week if you'd like it to be. You can set that. Next, you tell everyone, basically. Tell everyone that you know about the project. You spread the word. And people who like what you're doing can choose to either donate or pledge some money in return for a reward that they will receive later once your project has succeeded. So you also have the choice between two funding methods on Crowdfunder. There's all or nothing and keep what you raise. So all or nothing does what it says on the tin, basically. You have to hit your target in order to keep the funding with all or nothing. If you have a £10,000 target and you only raise 8,000, you don't get the money. Your backers aren't charged. No money is taken from them. We don't charge a fee. You don't lose anything. Basically, no money moves anywhere. You don't have to deliver rewards. All you've lost is your time and your effort, basically. The other one is keep what you raise. And on that method, it does, again, what it says on the tin. Doesn't matter if you reach your target or not. Whatever amount is pledged, you get to keep that, of course, minus the fees. At this point, most people ask, why would you go on all or nothing? Why wouldn't everyone opt for keep what you raise? The main reason why people go on all or nothing is that it's an all or nothing project. They need that amount of money in order to do the thing that they say they're going to do. If they need £10,000, 4,000 isn't enough. They can't do it. So that's the first reason. Secondly, all or nothing is a much stronger motivator for you as the team behind the project and also for your crowd, when you know that you have to hit that target in order for it to be a success. Just like what Alexandra was talking about needing to hit their target to secure that extra funding, it really is a strong motivator to keep you moving. So in terms of what makes a good project, there's these three things really, and you can start to think about the project you might want to run and think about kind of where your project sits on this. So you need to have a team. You need to have people who are able to run the project. And by able, I mean they have the time and they have the ability. They're willing to give it a go, okay? What I don't like to see is people coming in, wanting to crowdfund, and then saying they've actually got a month's holiday in the Bahamas booked, and they thought they'd just leave it running while they're off on holiday. It doesn't really work like that. You need to have some time. Next up is having a network. And what we mean by that isn't necessarily sort of just an online network. We're talking about real people as well. Who do you know, I think is the basic question, is being able to make connections with people that may share an interest with your project or may see value in what it is that you're doing. So having that ability to reach people, having a network. And finally, having a story. And what we mean here is having a good idea, having something that's innovative, having something that's exciting or interesting in some way, something that people can get behind and people can get passionate about. If you have those three things, you hopefully can't go too far wrong. So hopefully start thinking about your own project and saying, yep, tick, I've got all three of those. Perfect, I'm ready to go. So once you are ready to go, we break down the crowdfunding journey into these three main steps. The planning phase, where you are thinking about building your team, who's going to support your project, and basically making sure that you know who's doing what and when. Next, the creating bit. This is my favorite bit, the fun bit. That's where you get to write your story, where you get to add rewards, make it look good, add pictures, maybe even shoot a video. I really like taking something and making it really pretty, which is why that's absolutely my favorite bit. And finally, there's the running your project bit. So that's actually putting the thing live and talking to people about it and starting to get those pledges in. As you go through the Crowdfunder journey on the site, you'll see that we have lots of content, lots of advice and guidance, and it's all broken down into those three stages. So I'm thinking for a lot of you, you're probably at stage 1 of planning. People often get very excited and they want to jump ahead straight into stage 2 and start asking really detailed questions about stage 3. But I urge you to take your time and work through those stages carefully, because it will make the road much, much easier for you. So you guys, obviously, TimePeace ran a really fantastic campaign. Did you come up against any challenges at all as you were going through it?
Yeah, I was going to say there definitely were challenges, and just listening to you talk through the advice there, I would really echo that make sure you leave enough time for 1 and 2. We had originally thought about launching our crowdfunding campaign in maybe March, but because we hadn't got the video in the right place and other bits lined up, we kept kind of pushing it, and we looked at, you know, when would be the best time to run this 8-week campaign. And we had a fundraising event which was kind of separate to the crowdfunder happening in June. So we said, okay, well, let's time it for that. So we went and said, successful to do this, have we got all the right things lined up, how can we make sure everything's coordinated, because it is really exciting to be like, I just want to hit go and have it all coming in and run it. But I think the more prep you can do, the better place should be in. In terms of preparation, one thing I think that was particularly challenging was keeping up the momentum for 8 weeks. People are very excited when something pops up and it's a new idea, but trying to talk to them about the same idea for 8 weeks when, you know, they can't actually use it, it's still an idea. We also weren't giving rewards in terms of like a physical sense. Our rewards were more kind of kudos, being like, well, thank you publicly and you're a great human being. Which we went back and forth on, saying, should we kind of give out merchandise? And then a lot of friends said to us, look, we're going to back you either way. We don't really need another tote bag, and that will just end up coming out of your costs at the end. So if people want to back your project, they'll back your project. So think a little bit outside the box in terms of what you can offer people. Maybe it's like an experience. It doesn't need to be something which will cost you guys money, because there's no point spending money before you have it. And you could be spending on a lot more worthwhile things. To say, planning content for social media is quite challenging, and think outside the box. We managed to get some interest of a couple of kind of celebrities who tweeted for us, and making sure they're to kind of actively engage back and thanking them and publicly thanking people and encouraging them to share it with their friends, I think is really, really important. You can never go too far in saying thank you. We also then looked at a lot of opportunities to kind of network. So we attended loads of relevant events during that period to get our name out there as well, and talk about what we were doing. We had so don't just think it's about posting on a social channel, because you probably don't have that big a community anyway on there. Think about how you can get out and talk to real people and encourage them there and then to just kind of watch your video and go for it. Think about outside the box in terms of networking, and it will hopefully work in your favor, and you might meet some really interesting people along the way, which is always great. So, yeah.
Fantastic. What advice would you give to someone about running crowdfunding?
1 minute advice would be early, and don't rush into hitting go, because 8 weeks feels like a long time when you've got to talk about it, but it's also very scary to see the 8 weeks rapidly going and you're not kind of getting any closer. So it's a weird kind of time warp space there. So I would say plan thoroughly, and don't be afraid to go up and talk to people about it. It's quite overwhelming, and especially like no one likes asking people for money. But when you're crowdfunding, you're normally crowdfunding because you're trying to do something to help others, and it's not about asking them to buy you like a new pair of shoes. It's actually trying to improve society around you, and you'll find that people are a lot more open and willing to contribute when they'll see what you're passionate about and what you want to improve in the world around you. So we were really surprised by how receptive people were, and even friends of friends and people we'd never met before. So never be afraid to ask someone, and never be afraid to follow up. Follow-up's so key, because a lot of people want to help, but then they forget. So a little polite reminder always goes down well.
Absolutely. I think that's really great advice. So just to kind of finish up, I'm going to go through some of the advice and guidance that you have access to yourself if you're now thinking crowdfunding might be for me, looking at moving forwards with that. So we have 3 downloadable PDF guides on the website. You can find them really easily. There's also a specific version for Londoners that you can download. Again, there's one on planning, one on creating, and one on running your project. They're not these big, horrible, chunky books. They're around about 10 pages each. and it's very interactive. There's lots of kind of really usable, tangible advice in there, particularly if it's your first crowdfund. I definitely recommend skimming through that and having a look as kind of your first port of call. We do have lots of online workshops like this one. This one, of course, is an introduction to crowdfunding, and we actually have a more detailed series coming up, which starts next week. On Wednesday, on the 26th of July. There's going to be 3 parts to that series. Again, you'll start to recognise there's a theme here. It's going to be planning, creating and running your project. If you'd like to sign up to that, again, click through onto Eventbrite and have a look at all of the events on there. I'm also going to be sending out a link at the end of this session where you can sign up to these more detailed webinar sessions. You also will be receiving what we call sort of auto coaching anyway. So you'll be receiving emails from me and my team throughout your journey, where we'll be keeping you kind of in the loop with what kind of things you should be doing now and giving you kind of our top tips and examples right the way through. And of course, there's the one-to-one support from those of us here in the office. That's just a few lovely, embarrassing pictures of my colleagues there who are here absolutely to help. So if you are thinking, this might be a goer for me, this might be something I want to think about, my absolute best advice would be to go onto the website and click that Start Crowdfunding button. What that means is that then you're officially kind of in the system. You get to start to have a look at what's available to you. You can start to play around with adding different things to your page, downloading some of the advice and the guidance, looking at past projects, which of course is really key to seeing what worked well, and again, what maybe could be improved. But just start doing it, I think, is really important. And as I say, you do that by clicking Start Crowdfunding. If you do need any one-to-one help, or you have any questions at all, you can get in touch with us via email at support@crowdfunder.co.uk. You can as well leave comments on this video, and someone from Crowdfunder, either myself or one of my colleagues, will get back to you and answer any questions that you might have. So I'm going to say thanks so much for joining us today, and an extra special huge thank you to Alexandra for joining us from TimePeace.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been really great, and best of luck with all of your projects you guys do. If you are interested in getting involved with TimePeace, we're launching in September, and it's a great way to meet new people in your area and learn new skills and have a bit of fun. So please follow us on social media to keep up to date.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll see you next time. Thanks, bye.